Joining me now to discuss, Tudor Dixon, host of the Tudor Dixon podcast, and former State Department official David Tafuri. Great to see both of you. Thank you so much. So, Tudor, these talks are a long time coming. What are your thoughts about this being an expansion of the Dunroe Doctrine?
I mean, this is good for the United States. We need to have these talks because Cuba has aligned itself with China very closely. We know that this is like a surveillance state of the United States now for China. They have way too much access. They've built infrastructure there. Their connection is very strong. And the United States needs to break that up. And the reason they're coming now to the table is because of the oil. So not having this oil from Iran has caused them, they've had China come in and build solar power, tried to build renewable power. It's not enough. Obviously, they're going to need the oil. They're now in dire straits because of this situation, and they're now willing to come to the table and talk. They know their economy is crashing. They know that their people are going hungry. This has been going on for a long time. They align themselves with the wrong country in China. They have an opportunity to try to make that right, and that will be good for the United States because, as I said, they've set up China has been able to set up surveillance of the United States. They've been strategically connecting with ports all around the United States to try to surveil us, and we want to make sure that we can stop that from happening.
Yeah, David, the president suggested the idea of a friendly takeover of Cuba. It's quite interesting that the government there is wanting to talk it out, at least to try. What is your assessment of what's happening?
Well, we don't know much about what's happening in these talks, and it's not clear if these talks are really geared towards some sort of agreement or these are just the beginning of discussions which the Trump administration has not had with Cuba. I do think it's fair to say, based on the fact that Trump administrations have privately been talking about it, that the Trump administration wants to see all three regimes toppled. That's Venezuela, Iran, and Cuba. And they think they're related, and in some ways they are. Certainly there's a strong relation between Venezuela and Cuba. Cuba was receiving energy subsidies from Venezuela, which was helping keep the Cuban economy afloat. But you also have to remember that the Cuban regime has survived for decades. And even as many predicted it would fall, they proved resilient. They also have very effective intelligence apparatus in Cuba that they maintain oppression over the people. It's a police state. And so I'm not convinced it's just going to fall on its own. And even if we did airstrikes on Cuba, which doesn't seem to be contemplated right now, that may not be enough either. It's probably going to take boots on the ground, and it's not clear that President Trump has the will to send in U.S. forces into Cuba. That would be an invasion of an island.
Well, Tudor, let's not forget, too, that Maduro's security team was a bunch of Cuban soldiers, essentially, when they were trying to protect him in Venezuela when they went in and took Maduro out of there just a couple of months ago. But you mentioned the economic impact of this. Do you think that's really the way the president's going to be able to do this without maybe some military force? Or do you think that military force is on the table, given that they're very serious about making sure our hemisphere is clear of our enemies?
I mean, obviously, I don't speak for whatever the administration is deciding to do, but it seems to me as though it is he's talking about talks right now. He's saying that he believes they'll come to the table. He thinks that they will topple on their own. I do think it is an economic issue that he's looking at. And I do think that he has seen this geopolitics from a wider lens than any president has seen in many years. And he did understand the impact of what going into Venezuela would do, rebuilding Venezuela with American companies that would go in and rebuild their oil industry and take some of that control back. I will say again, I do believe that this all goes back to China. China has had a lot of control in South America. They have taken over and financed many of the ports, or at least jointly financed many of the ports. They've built infrastructure there. They have the connection to Iran. I think that this is not just economic for Cuba, it is also for China as well, so that the United States remains a superpower.
And Hezbollah has also, which of course is an Iranian terrorist army, has a foothold in South America as well. David, right quickly before we go, I want to get your assessment of what's happening with the U.S. military partnering with governments of Ecuador, for example, to go after drug cartels, and whether you think that's going to be a successful mission.
Well, I think that makes a lot of sense. You know, the countries in the South America that are stronger allies right now are going to want to work with the United States. They certainly don't want to be targeted for having supported drug cartels and drug smuggling, and especially the countries that are neighbors of Venezuela can be very helpful. I'm thinking about Colombia, for instance, which is an ally. It has problems of its own, although it's improved a lot over decades with a lot of American support and help. I think we can count on them as an ally too to interdict drug trafficking.
All right, David and Tudor, we will be watching the Don Roe doctrine. Thank you for joining us tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you for watching. Subscribe below and download our NewsNation app right now on your phone, and you will get fact-based, unbiased news for all Americans.